Hello, you are tuning in to the Capsule in Conversation podcast, dedicated to women and their well-being. I'm Natalie Anderson, and today I'm joined by broadcaster, journalist and body positive advocate Jackie Adedeji to talk all about her brilliant new Channel 4 documentary, My Big Boobs. So make yourself comfortable and get ready to join us in our conversation. Hello all, thank you so much for joining me today. I have got such a brilliant guest for today's chat. As a writer, she's a columnist for Metro and a regular contributor to ES Magazine and Refinery 29. She's the dynamic podcast host of Copperfield's The Boob Show and has partnered with Lush, Superdrug and Curvy Cape. But it's her fantastic documentary, My Big Boobs, for Channel 4's Untold series that is firmly putting her front and centre of the body positive movement. I am so thrilled to have her with me today. She is such a busy bee. It is the lovely Jackie Adedeji. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for squeezing us in. I know that you are so busy at the minute, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And do you know what, Natalie? I'm so shocked because I obviously was so passionate about this story and I have been for so many years, but to see how much it's taken on a life of its own and like so many women are connecting and being open with things that have happened to them regarding their boobs has just been amazing. Like it just feels like it's such a safe space to just get it off our chest.
Literally. Well, do you know, I watched the documentary last night and I have to say, congratulations. It is such a brilliant documentary. And it's funny because so many of the things that you cover in there really resonated with me. Like as a young girl growing up and getting my boobs at 11 and, you know, like I haven't got an overly sizable chest, but at the same time, some of the things that you talked about quite early on that many women really struggle with. I know some of the ladies that you interviewed right at the start just talked about how they felt so sexualised as children. I mean, was that kind of your experience as well?
Oh yeah, that was my life growing up, really. So, you know, I grew up in a really kind of religious household, and I remember this word that pops up into my head all the time is like decent. I always used to get told, right, you need to be decent, you need to dress decent, or you need to cover up, or you need to be a bit more modest. And that was, you know, I was getting that messaging quite early on, you know, 11, 12, and I'd be like, I'm so confused. Like, why? Like, I didn't get it. Like, obviously I had big boobs, but like, I didn't, you know, when you're that age, 11, 12, like you want to conform and be like your mates. Like you don't want to be like an individual. You want to just
you want to be in the gang.
Yeah, I want to be part of the gang. And I was like, why do I have to dress up? Like, why can't I wear that belly top like Charlotte? Or why can't I do this? And my parents were like, no, you can't wear that. So from early on, I felt the policing and the censorship over my boobs. And then through that, then was this big ball of shame that kind of came over me. And, you know, I decided really early on in my life that, okay, you know what, like I'm going to be invisible because, you know, it wasn't even just my parents and friends, but also I think just going outside, like going to school or meeting up with my friends to play out, and you'd walk past a group of guys or even a guy on his own and he's trying to chat you up, or he's saying, oh, like, look at the size of those, or a group of guys saying, have you seen the size of her, you know, and you're like there just so conscious, like, oh my God, like I thought I hid them, like, oh gosh, you know, and it's that, and then you go, right, that's it, I'm hiding, I'm going to be invisible, I'm going to be Casper, because then everyone will leave me alone. So I went on a mission from when I was about 13 to I would say like 16, 17, hoodies, turtlenecks, you name it, summer, I'd wear them all. I'm like, I would be sweating, but it just meant that people would leave me alone.
And that's kind of what one of the ladies was saying. And you could physically see it in her eyes. Like when she was like, she was reflecting back to being a young person, and it's a trauma, and it's a trauma that many women have actually gone through, you know, and had to kind of live with, and massively affected how they see themselves as adults, as grown women, you know, and the mental toll. And it's funny because you even had it a little bit as well in the documentary where you were like, oh wow, I'm quite triggered by this. And I was watching it because like, it took me back to being at school and to feeling like, you know, when boys used to, you know, squirt water at you so your shirt would go invisible, like see through, and they'd be like, oh look, wet t-shirt competition and all of that.
Yes.
And then it kind of does put a spin on things where you think suddenly you are just being what's the word, like your whole identity becomes about your
you're
boobs
reduced
and
just your boobs. Yeah, you're just like just a thing with tits, basically. That's kind of how you're treated, and you feel it. You really do feel it. You have to, and I have had to do this, actively fight for my identity, because if you don't, people will define it for you. You were the girl with the big tits. All you're good for is your tits. So you have to literally fight to be like, I am so much more than that. But you also have to believe that about yourself. And it's incredibly hard if the noise around you is that that's all you're good for. But also they make me uncomfortable. But also I want to see them, but also put them away. You know, it's such confusing messaging. So it's really hard to find your voice. It's hard to find your voice anyway, I think, as a young woman. But then, you know, having big boobs on top of that, it's even harder because you're fighting everyone just to
and
be
what's funny as well, Jackie, is like you and I probably grew up through a time which is, you know, it was kind of the page 3 era, the Pamela Anderson, the, you know, Jordan era of women wanting bigger and bigger and bigger chests, you know, and you'd have people on TV shows going, oh my God, she's had the biggest breast implants put in. So on the one hand, you're seeing women being kind of celebrated for a particular size, much bigger than that, or it's very confusing messaging as well, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you're thinking, well, they're being celebrated for it, so why the hell do I feel so bad?
Yep.
I think, you know, there's such a clear distinction between when you have naturally big boobs and when your boobs aren't real. It's a different experience, because, and the differentiating thing is you choose to have fake boobs. You don't choose to have natural big boobs. They just come with you, you know? So choice is a big part of that. And so I think for me at the time, the only representation I had was that. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I am a sexual being then. And maybe I should be, you know, trying to be a bit more like that, because there's, you know what I mean? It was just so extreme. You're either like invisible or you're this very hyper visible, very like sexually
sexy,
driven. Yeah. And it's like, how are you, I mean, at 14, 15, it's like, you should still be, I don't even know, like, just finishing playing with your Bratz dolls. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and like
Zoo magazine, like, oh, should I try this pose? You know, it's like.
And I think as well, like what you were saying about representation as well. And it's funny because I thought about this last night after watching the documentary. I thought, I wonder, you know, how it is in other parts of the world. Is it because, like, for us, that's what we're bombarded with, you know, like whether it was magazines or whether it was newspapers, and obviously now we've got social media. Is it that kind of, you know, kind of forces it to the front, really? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like boobs, like just across the globe, are just sexualized. I mean, even when if we go deeper and look at like the way that breastfeeding is like sexualized, and breastfeeding makes not even just some men feel uncomfortable, some women, and you're like, wait, whoa, you're meant to be on RT, what's going on? So I think breasts are just sexualized as a whole, and again, sex sells. So I think how we view breasts is it's a massive societal issue. And of course, a lot of it stems from porn. A lot of young boys, their first experience of seeing naturally big boobs is through porn or through magazines of some kind. So it's, you know, that's the kind of frustrating thing, is that there's no, when I was growing up and I had grown big boobs as about a double F when I was 11, and my teacher said to me, oh, you're really developed now, so you can't get changed in the classroom with the girls and the boys. And I was a bit like, okay, I don't really know what that means. So it was only the Muslim girls that would get changed in the toilet. So I went with them. And like, now I look back and I think, when you're in school and they teach you about, like, you know, the birds and the bees or your period or stuff like that, they never actually talk to you about, you know, when your body changes, if your boobs get bigger or whatever, what does that mean? And how do we look at boobs in society versus like how you should see yourself? If I had those conversations, and if we are having those conversations, then I think things will change. There's so much unlearning that has to be done. And this is what I was trying to do with the documentary, because I don't think people see naturally big breasted women and think, oh, I feel really sorry for her. Is she all right? Are you okay? It's more like, slag, you're asking for it. Why'd you wear that then? Can I have a feel? Can I stick my head in there? Do you have a license for those? You know, it's like that.
there was a woman that if you're going into the documentary, and we'll talk more about kind of the breast reduction side of it, but one of the ladies that you spoke to that did crowdfunding, and the bribery that basically she faced, which was, oh yeah, I'll put into the pot, but can I have this? Will you show me your tits? Will you do this? Will you do And it was just like, this woman is clearly desperate to get this surgery. She really needs help. And that's what you confront her with.
Right. Yeah. And that's another classic example of there's no empathy. There's absolutely no empathy. It's like, oh, boo-hoo. Okay, yeah, we'll give you money, but still, let me just sexualize you a little bit and then I'll give you 50 quid. You know, it's always that. There's no compassion. And it's when, Rochelle and Laura are very normal girls, they don't want this. They don't want this. And they shouldn't have to put up with it. And I just think across the board, women shouldn't be putting up with half of the stuff we put up with anyway. But then in this context, women with big boobs should not be treated like they're immune from pain and feelings. And they shouldn't be treated like they're just like walking flesh, because that's often how it feels. And I think that, Rochelle, I was so happy for her because she really gets to live her life. Things that we take for granted, going for dinner, going for a walk, going on a girl's holiday, whatever. She never did those things, and she's in her 30s because of her boobs. She's like missed out on a whole. So now she's trying to do it now.
And you can see that confidence in her as well. And, when we look at some of the figures and the facts that you kind of uncovered, and you'd said, 55% increase in breast reduction, and how women were actually having to really fight as well to try and get that on the NHS because of things like, the BMI. I mean, just talk me through that process, what you kind of uncovered during that time.
Yeah. So, I mean, to get breast reduction is free on the NHS, but to actually get it done is, somewhat of luck of the draw, postcode lottery. It's heavily dependent on where you live and if there's budget for it and stuff like that. But yeah, BMI is a big part of breast reduction surgery. So for lots of women, they have to have a certain BMI in order to be moved forward in the process of breast reduction. So I think if you're over 27, if your BMI is over 27, you're deemed overweight, and that's something that they wouldn't put you through for surgery. And what's kind of interesting is that, of course, what adds to your weight is your boobs, and that's not something that is considered, which I think is absolutely crazy, but it's not considered in that. And it's, breast reduction surgery is on the rise, because I think a lot of women are like, I've been on the NHS. I mean, lots of people are struggling with the NHS, in different ways. But I think for lots of other women, it's like, oh, I've been on the waiting list for 5 years. I'm sick of this. So I'm going to use my money pot and go and get breast reduction surgery. Or some people resort to crowdfunders like Laura, because they're like, I am so desperate, I'll do anything at this point. So yeah, it's annoying, because I think, how do you measure up who's the best candidate for it? What size do your boobs have to be? How do you have to demonstrate your pain to be believed? It's that, what do you have to do? I got turned away by the NHS when I was 18 because they said my BMI was too high, and they said I needed to have a steady weight for about a year in order to be considered for it. And I remember when I went to the consultation, I was literally crying, like, I hate this. Like, it's like, when you just think, if you're turning me away, then like, I've got no hope, because
because where do you get that kind of money from? Like you said, like so many women are just like, things are so hard anyway now, cost of living crisis.
Totally.
And what it really was very apparent to me, and again, I not in the same capacity, but I get really bad neck ache and backache because my boobs are a double D and I've got a really tiny back. And I know that since I was 11, I've sat like this.
Yes.
And I got really bad posture, and I've had people tell me, you got to straighten your posture out. And it's caused me, like, mentally, I felt uncomfortable. Now, that's my tiny little bit of it. Now, as you know, magnifying that to some of the ladies that you spoke to,
Yeah.
and that you could physically see how every day was a struggle for them, whether that's like what you were saying, where they've got marks in their shoulders because of the, you know, the bras, or just their aching backache, neck ache.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when I was watching, and I thought, how are you not seeing their pain? Like, isn't that enough for you?
Yeah. Right. It's like, what do you
What do
guys
you want?
Yeah. It's like, should I cry on demand? Should I just get them out and then you can see it with your own eyes? It is definitely that, you know. And I think anyway, across the board, even in women's health, a lot of women feel like their pain is not taken seriously. And also the kind of psychological impacts, because a lot of the time when big breasts are discussed, it's always some kind of like a physical angle. But I think the psychological warfare of what it does to a person and how they have to battle with their mind every single day, battle with the world every single day for simply existing, is something that I definitely wanted to show in the documentary by visiting Rochelle, because it's really important that, you know, people understand that it's not just physical, it's mental. People get in your head. And a lot of my life, many voices have tried to get into my head and say, you know, even what I'm doing now, you know, I've had lots of DMs from random people saying, you know, why are you doing this? Do something a bit more serious. Or, you know, or, oh yeah, this is
Whoa.
apparently, Natalie, this isn't serious enough.
What?
Oh dear, yeah. Apparently, it's not a serious topic enough. I actually got a message from somebody who told me on BBC News, some random guy, and said, "Oh, I bet you're happy now. You're going to get your followers after posting about your boobs." I'm like, "Oh,
Oh my God, that is so
welcome you to the page,
infuriating.
darling."
Because
Hello.
I will tell you now, when I finish watching your documentary, and it's something actually I've got at the end of this chat, is that I was like, I really wanted this to be part of a series. I was like, wanted you to be the front and center of a whole series of these kind of conversations.
Let's manifest it,
because
Natalie.
honestly, I found just the way that you were with the ladies that you spoke to, and the way you delivered that information, I was in, and I felt like it was such an important conversation, and something that I'd not seen before. I'd never seen it before, and I'd never seen that kind of, you know, it really made me sit back and think, and it made me think more about the mental health aspect than anything. So I'm really fuming that someone said that to you, because I'm like, no, I want a wider series.
Thank you. Well, do you know what? It's because there's never any compassion. Like, nobody, like, people don't feel sorry. They're just like, don't. And that's why I did this doc, because I'm like, no, you need to give a damn, because like you can set somebody back 5 years by a stare, by a sneer. You can literally set somebody back. A woman might just be feeling herself one day, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to go out and do this for me. And then you stare or you point, and she's like, I'm never doing this again. It's that deep, because it's such a physical thing. And actually, when I was on Steph's packed lunch today, I was talking to this lovely chap, I've forgotten his name now. And he was talking about disability, and he said in a lot of ways there's like parallels with being big breasted and having disability, because of the way you're treated. It's such a physical thing that people see, and it's a very reactionary thing. So people react in real time, and sometimes they're not even conscious of their own behavior. And it's kind of interesting, because I think that for lots of women it does feel like, you know, something crippling and something that, you know, is just the bane of their existence. And, you know, I don't think that you should have to own it if you don't want to. I'm not like, oh, own your boobs and own, because the way pain affects women is so different. My pain is really minimal, barely, like I have them out all the time. Whereas there's other women who've messaged me. In fact, there was 2 women that messaged me last night. One of them said to me, I couldn't watch your doc because I was sexually harassed. And it was too triggering for me to watch, because it just reminded me of the pain that my boobs bring me. And I was like, wow.
And there's nothing that person can do about it. You know, that, like you say, they can't change that. And if they want to change it, it's a very expensive process.
Exactly. It's that, and this is something I've had to consciously fight. There's this feeling of like ickiness, like you're almost like this gross thing, you know, like, because the way sometimes, even the way some people can talk to you, like what, like, and like they'll go right in nasty, like right into your face, like, wow, what's it like? You know, like really like it's like, hello, boundaries, no, okay.
Space.
Yeah, it's like, you know, oh, what's it like? Oh, wow, like, can I take a picture? Yeah, it's like that. It's like, and it is just unbelievable. And that I mean, I can handle it. I mean, it doesn't really happen often, but when it has in the past, I can kind of handle it. But it is the most it's just like a massive violation. Like they don't see you, like you don't
That's
exist.
what I mean. It's being identified by your
Yeah,
boobs and your
yeah, you're
breasts.
just reduced to that.
I mean, I
Yeah.
did find that quite poignant in the documentary when it did affect you and you were like, is this a mask? You know, and it really did get to you. And I just thought to myself, you know, you're allowed though, aren't you? Even if you are positive, even if you
Yes.
are being like, actually, I want to change the narrative, I'm going to try my best to make change, you are allowed to still have your moments of reflection and, you know, it
Yes.
affected you. How did you, you know, in that moment, was it, because like I said, you very openly questioned yourself and was
Yeah.
like, I'm now thinking, am I in denial? You know, how did you move on from that? Or was it a moment, or was it a process? Or
It was a process, to be honest, Natalie, because you know, you're in a private surgery and women's lives are changing in there constantly. They're getting their breast reduction, they're getting lipo, like, ooh, happiness is on the other side. And then you're in this zone and we're waiting for Rochelle. And then, you know, you're having this conversation with Dr. Mark, and he's, you know, a respected surgeon. He's done thousands of breast reduction surgeries. And he's sort of looking at me like, it's going to get worse, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know, like it's almost like no one can tell me about my boobs because they're my boobs, so like whatever. But then if it's like a surgeon, you're a bit like, oh, okay. Ooh. Oh, is it really? Like,
Right.
like even that moment, my face was like, I couldn't even hide it because I was like, crap. So then after that, I went to the toilet and I did something that I haven't done since I was 11 years old, and I had put my arm on my chest like that, like how you used to,
Yeah, like that.
because I was like, oh, let me see what it looks like if my boobs are smaller. And I used to do that constantly when I was growing up. And I said, damn, he's got me. That was quick. And then when we were filming, it was like, I can't even pretend that I'm not triggered by this, because I'm heavily triggered by this, because this is something that I've been actively fighting against kind of my whole life. And he got me in that moment and he got me questioning things. But like you rightly said, like, I think those moments of kind of vulnerability and showing that, like, you know, sometimes you can change your mind in moments, or like, you know, no one is 100% like, yes, and positive about every single time. Like, you know, a human being is, it's kind of a complex thing. But once I left the surgery, I took some time to myself. So we kind of paused filming for a few days. And I said to myself, Jackie, before you went into the surgery, did you want breast reduction? I was like, no. Okay. Were you thinking about it at any point in your life? I was like, no. I'm like, well, then that's your answer then. And that's a classic example of how easy it is for people to get into your head, make you question your own self-belief or your own self-love about your boobs. But also, he's a private surgeon. It's sales. So gonna get a business.
I did think a little bit of that. I was like, leave her alone.
In the moment, I was like, and somebody had messaged my manager and said, I just want to say that man is so horrible for making Jackie cry. I hope she's okay. And I was like, oh, fine. Because there was no additional bit to kind of show when I'd come back. But
yeah,
I did come back and I did check in with myself. And I was like, no, you're good. You're fine. And to be honest, if at any point I decide I am going to get a breast reduction tomorrow, next year, I want to make sure I am doing that for me, and not because someone else has made me feel like that's the best thing for me. Because I think it's just remembering that the power always is with us. And it's
always.
it's only given to people if you allow them to take it. But actually, everything is with us. Every decision, every choice is with us. And that's, you know, why I'm still, you know, shaking my boobies now.
Which I do love on your Instagram, I have to say.
Oh, thank
I
you.
do love it. But, you know, like you, and I didn't say it at the top, but I should, because you recently got married. So congratulations. And I loved
so much.
your dresses, because you had several. But you know, like
Thank
I
you.
loved what you wore in all the different like ceremonies and the engagement that you did.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just wondering, you know, my friend actually spoke to me about this once because she's a bridal couture designer,
Mm,
and
mm.
she specializes, sorry, in women with bigger breasts doing
That's amazing.
corsetry,
Love that.
because she said there's hardly anything on the market
Oh yeah.
for women with bigger chests. I mean, what was your experience?
Oh, Natalie, do you know what? I was like, I'm not going to make myself sad and do the whole let's go girls, let's go wedding dress shopping. And then they're like, oh, sorry, we don't do your size. So I was like, I'm going to go on Etsy, buy a dress for 350 quid from Lithuania, and then get it tailored. So that's what I did. So I bought my wedding dress from Etsy, and I knew I wanted to do something a bit different and have fun and like
Yeah.
experiment, because I think bridal is also about expression. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'm gonna go with Lady Gaga. Like I'm like throw on a bow there, maybe make it a bit short, like have some fun with it. So yeah, that's what I did. I and you know, of course, uh there were lots of people who were friends of my parents that, you know, didn't love the dress because at one point the boobs were just
They were
every
there.
yeah, and they were just like, oh, I could feel them being uncomfortable. And I just thought, it's my wedding. I actually don't give a damn. I'm like,
Yeah.
you should know me by now. And also, like, I'm busty. So what do you want me to like? What do you want me to do? You know, it's always like, it always feels like it's on you to like make other people feel comfortable. And it's like, this is your wedding day. So absolutely not. Like, if you're uncomfortable, then I feel really sorry for you because I'm having a great time.
And I think there's a
Yeah.
religious aspect as well there,
Oh
isn't
my
there? Of
God.
like, you know,
Yeah.
depending on the generation, like you said, if it's some of your
Mm.
parents' friends and you grew up in a,
Yeah.
you know, a religious family, there is
Yeah.
that thing of you should, again, going back to the time when you want to have like the best day of your
Yes.
life, look the best that you've ever
Oh,
felt. And you've got people going, you should cover up because you
oh,
are,
yeah.
it's marriage, you know, and all
I
those kind of
know.
connotations.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, I found this out last week, but when I was on my like mini moon, I found out that my wedding dress actually went viral, but on the sort of Nigerian Christian subsection of the internet. Somehow was on TikTok, somehow was on these crazy Nigerian blogs, and just like like it was, people were calling me all kinds of things. But then there were also people saying, "Oh, actually, it's her wedding day; she should wear what she want." But it was dividing opinion. Then it was in some like Nigerian newspaper, and they're like, "This is such a daring choice. Would you do it?" I'm like, "This is insane!" Like, it's not daring, it's just me. And this is the thing, it's annoying when like people want to give you labels just for like existing and being you,
Yeah.
like a thing. I'm just doing my thing, like leave me alone, you know. So but I just think regardless of what, you know, my family or my friends might think, it's always about doing stuff for me. Like we cannot live, you know, one of my favorite quotes is like, if you live by people's opinions, you'll die by their decisions. Like I cannot waste any more time like battling with other people's opinions of me or what they think I should be wearing or what's decent or what's modest. Like I'm tired. I want a cocktail. I want to relax. Leave me alone. I want to do what I'm going to do. And I really want this for so many other women who are full of busted. I know it's actually really difficult to break through because some women have messaged me and said like, how'd you get to this point? And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I think it's just being really just screw it. I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to put myself out there. And yeah, and people are going to find it weird. Or I think for anyone, if you ever do something that feels really different than you've not seen before, like you do find some people that are like, oh, like stay a bit away from you. But then when things start happening, they come back. They get in the
Yeah.
DM. Like, I just want to say, I love what you're doing. I'm like,
It's
oh,
amazing.
yeah. It's like, oh,
But
but
it
you told me
takes,
to through my
you know, it's
career.
like what you were
Okay.
saying about
Yeah.
owning your power and what is
Yes.
your USP and what is,
Yes.
what, you know, and I was wondering this as well, you know,
Mm.
obviously you are the host for Copperfields, the boob
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
And that means I'm sure you've covered stories with women that have had breast cancer or had, you know,
Yes.
lots of, when you're looking at women that potentially are in a life-threatening situation and, you know, that also I expect must make you see things differently and think, actually, do you know what? Life is for living, and actually, you can't tell me kind of how to live my life. Would you say that's had any influence on you?
Oh, totally. I mean, some of the amazing breast cancer survivor queens that I've worked with, I'm like, you are, your energy, their zest for life is unmatched. I was on a shoot with a brand called Lounge last year. They have a Feel Your Breast campaign every month for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we're in we're in our bra and our pants, and like, you have women with double mastectomies, and like everything's just hanging out. Everyone is just doing their thing. And it's like, I can't, the way I feel about my boobs or like the shame disappears. Because these women are like, this is what I'm fighting for my life, and I'm having a great time, and I'm owning my body. I might not be at peace with what's happening with it right now, but I'm making the most out of my life. And I think that outlook for me changes it. I'm like, I'm not even going to stress about what I've got over here. I'm not even going to stress about it. And working with these women is such an honor, because as an ally, just to be around them, to hear their stories, to hear everything that they're going through. Some of them are still fighting cancer at the moment. It's just, it's such an inspirational energy, and they all inspire me. And that's why I wanted to do, I wanted to do the podcast, because I think a lot of women, non-binary people, are not necessarily engaged with their chest. And if you're not engaged with your chest, then you're not going to check your chest for breast cancer, which is really important. I think it's having these conversations so they become less icky, and they become less gross, and they just become a bit more normal. It's like, yeah, check my boobs in the shower, check my chest, normal. Like, let's not make things like a thing anymore, and just do it. And like, but it all starts with us and our relationship to ickiness and shame and our chest, and really kind of deconstructing where that comes from. Because I do think shame is a big driver. I think when you've got big boobs, and shame has to go somewhere. So a lot of the shame that I realized I felt around my boobs came from other people. Oh, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Yeah, but people would think this. Oh, but actually, that's someone else's projection. Like, that doesn't have to be your story. But shame is like matter. It has to go somewhere, but it doesn't have to go with you. So, I'm like, where is my shame racket? If it's coming, let me get out of here.
But it's funny because, do you know what? It's like when we go back thinking about, dresses or dress sizes or bras. So my mum always used to talk about like things looking elegant and boobs not being up here. And it's I always call it a French chest, where there's basically it's just, this is all clear. There's no cleavage. You can wear a top that just skims the breast. And I'm like, I can't wear those. I can't wear those dresses, and I love them, and I love seeing them on other people. But my boobs don't look good in those dresses, or they're not in the right place. But it makes me feel less elegant. And that is something that really bugs me, is that the idea of elegance and class doesn't sit with having a bigger chest. It's such a weird thing, isn't it? It's like, if you've got a bigger chest, you're not as classy, you're not as stylish, you're not as elegant. So do you think as well, like the fashion industry has got a lot to answer for?
So sizing is a big, I mean, honestly, my style would be so different if there was more accessible clothes for women with my bust. 150%. A lot of us are just making stuff up, just trying to ordering stuff from ASOS, hoping for the best, to be honest, hoping it fits. But 100% that the sizing is the issue, and like fashion not including us. And there are a lot, and also I just think that big boobs are seen as something, I feel, quite vulgar. And so a lot of the clothes that are quite elegant, you can't really wear. And if you do wear them, you look sexy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, oh,
it's not elegant, is it? It's weird or chic.
I'm trying to do a Meghan Markle, and it's kind of it's a bit Katie Price. It's like you kind of can't even, you try your best, but it's sexy, and you're like, damn, that wasn't, And then also it's that sort of I remember growing up and I was told, like, oh, you can't have your tits and your legs out at the same time.
Yeah, or always that. Yeah. You've got to be one or the other.
Today, the legs are out, the tits are covered. It's like, damn you. But definitely the fashion industry is, I mean, somebody messaged me last night saying, where do you buy your clothes and how do you shop for things? I always refine my search. So I will spend hours looking for clothes, like just scrolling through, refining the search to the size, to the this, to the that, to the color, to the whatever, because there's no point of me, like, I have to make do with what I've got. And I think that that's what lots of fully busted women do. But I think a lot of them don't feel empowered to like be experimental, because you don't really want to be judged, or you don't want to be the center of attention in any kind of way. But I like to push the boundaries a little bit, and one of those people that I hate being told that I can't do something, so I will try.
Red rag to a bull.
Yeah, I will try. Even for my hen do, I got my cowgirl outfit custom made. She's like, she was like, oh, I've never done this size before. I was like, well, this is the first time.
First time.
Let's do it. And she was like, let's do it. And I was like, this is it. Like, you kind of have to fight a little harder to get what you want, but I take my kind of role quite seriously, in terms of like, I really want women to feel like, try asking and like try pushing yourself a little bit more and seeing what comes of it, because actually it doesn't have to be a hard life. It doesn't, it is, but it doesn't have to be 100% hard. Like, actually, if we rally together and support each other and like,
and share as well.
Yeah,
like, I was just going to ask you, where would you go? Where do you go for clothes, for bras, whatever? If we've got ladies listening in going, I've no idea, like, where do you go?
So okay, some really good brands for fuller busted. So I'm a K, so I'm a 36K. So I would say Elomi's really good, Curvy Kate's really good. Okay, they're my main ones, to be honest. I'm one of those people where like I'll wear like the same bra for like, if it works really well, for like 2 days, and then I'll be like, switch to another one. But Elomi and Curvy Kate are great. I have a good relationship with them. They're really, really good. I would say in terms of clothes, this is an interesting one. So I think it's also working out like what you have to work out what your vibe is, basically.
Yeah.
See how you can try and make it work. So for example, do you remember when Trinny and Susanna days?
Yeah.
They had this body Bible thing, and like I remember they'd say stuff like, if your body shape's like this, you have to wear this kind of stuff. I think that's all like rubbish. I think it's just working out like what your vibe is, and then working out like what can you wear that kind of makes sense, like that fits. And you have to look a little harder for it. And sometimes you have to get things slightly tweaked a little bit, but like you can do it. But you have to, like I said, I spent hours looking. And then, for example, if I rent clothes quite a lot, actually, and a lot of it is like luck of the draw. So if it fits, I'm like, yes. But sometimes you don't really know. But as I said, like I kind of like the thrill of like, will it or won't it?
I think as well, like, so my friend Kate, who's the dressmaker, she was saying, I think it would be great to see more kind of tailors and seamstresses on high streets and things, because I think, for all kinds of different body shapes and sizes, because you could have shorter legs and all these things, like when you pick something up, but if it's going to just cost you an extra 15 quid or 10 quid or something to get it made to measure, because what you were saying earlier about like, the Meghan Markle and the Katie Price, probably a lot of that will be to do with the fit and how it fits across your boobs. If it's fit properly to you, then you'll get the Meghan Markle kind of look. It's because it's the material could be pulling, or the darts aren't in the right place. So perhaps that's an idea, is to try and either find out a local tailor or seamstress or something like that if you're struggling, because ultimately as well, bodies change. It could be like pregnancy, it could be perimenopause, menopause, whatever, and you might have stuff that you really love that you don't want to get rid of. So that's a potential, like an idea. But going back to you, like I said at the beginning, I want to see more. So what are your ideas? Have you got any more ideas of like other topics that you want to kind of explore?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm so interested at the moment. I'm quite interested in like therapy, because there's obviously lots of waiting lists and stuff like that, but I think there's also a lot of people having not so great therapy. So I'm kind of interested in like the sort of rise in therapy, but also I'm interested in kind of doing more sort of segments and kind of, factual entertainment work where like we're empowering women, whether that's through clothing or whether that's through kind of like self-confidence. I mean, I grew up watching, Gok Wan and How to Look Good Naked, and him calling women's boobs their baps, and I love that, because I just think that kind of stuff is really needed. And sometimes when you talk to people, they think it, it's quite dated, but actually it's not, because I think self-love is like lifetime's work. Like I don't think there's anyone that's like, I love myself 100% and think I'm perfect, because no one does. And you can get knocked back a lot, and sometimes some people can get knocked back, get back on their feet quite quickly. And then other people, you've knocked them down for 5 years. So it's I would love to do something where I'm helping women continuously on their journey and, you know, and like having fun with themselves more and going out and living life. You know, I'm just, honestly, the DMs I'm getting from some of these women in their 70s and their 80s, and they're living their breast life because they've had a breast reduction, they're going on holiday, maybe they're going with their new toy boy. I'm like, I just love this for you. Like, go girl, go have fun, do your thing. So yeah, I'll definitely, and I just love women. I literally love women. I just think women are amazing, and just doing things to uplift women is just like the dream.
I completely agree with you. And there was something that your mum said at the end of the documentary last night, and I loved it when she was like, "You're a pioneer," you know, and with being a pioneer, you kind of you need responsibility, and you're doing it. You're empowering people. And she said, you know, she wished she'd had somebody like you, kind of, like for her bum, like fighting a corner and stuff. And I think it's, you know, like you've said, you do see it as a responsibility, and you do see it as you take what you've built and your platform and, you know, your Instagram and all the writing that you do. It's all kind of focused to empowering women and to making them feel their best. And I would definitely love to see, like I said, a series of you doing various things, because I think the other thing that came across very much in the documentary was you were like their friend. You're a friend that actually has compassion and empathy and understanding, and that takes a lot, because even when you are investigating something, you want somebody that's got that element of compassion. So let's manifest a styling and empowerment series for Jackie, everybody.
Natalie, it's got to be done. Yes. No, I would absolutely love that. And, you know, I did see them as, because you know what, I was like them once. So we're not too different from each other. I am them and they are me. We have this unique experience that bonds us. So, you know, I was never looking at them like contributors, but I was looking at them more like sisters. And you know, and now, you know, Rochelle just got married. She was sending me pictures in her dress and her new boobs, and I'm like, yes, girl. And you know, Laura's having a great time. She's like, loves her new boobs, and you know, and she's loving getting to tell her story publicly, because of all the stuff she went through. And yeah, I'm just glad that these women they feel seen, and then they feel heard and understood, and they feel humanized, because that is truly what they deserve.
Oh, Jackie, it's been such a joy to talk to you. You've literally brought so much joy to our podcast today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you for having me. I had the best time.
Oh, I've had the best time too, and I'm going to start putting my shoulders back and try and not sit hunched like this and hide away. No more hunching. I'm going to try and get better bras that fit me better as well, and so that I can be upright.
Yes. It's all in the shoulders, and to be honest, I'm wearing like literally the wrong bra, but I'm just it work somehow today. But no, yeah, I had the best time. So thank you so much for having me, and I love your podcast, and it's so great.
Thank you so much.
Like brightened up my day. So yeah.
And you've got so many more to have, but thank you so much. To watch Jackie's brilliant documentary, My Big Boobs, you can head to All4 to stream it now. You can also follow Jackie on Instagram. Go and see all of her amazing content at Oh My Gosh, It's Jackie. I love that handle so much, honestly. As always, for wellbeing, fashion and beauty, you can always visit us at our website, www.thecapsule.co.uk. And you can also catch up with our previous podcast episodes by visiting the In Conversation page and subscribing to any of our podcast channels and YouTube. As always, feel free to leave us a rate or a review or a direct message at our Instagram at Official Capsule. I can't believe we will be finishing this series so soon, but don't worry, because I will be back next week with another very special guest. So all that's left for us to say today is goodbye. So it's goodbye from Jackie.
Bye.
And goodbye from me. Bye-bye.